And we're live. Welcome, everybody, to your favorite day of the week. I'm Anthony Irwin, as always, joined by Aaron Larsoul. Aaron is wearing his least comfortable hat. So
It's quite comfortable.
I just can't believe it. I look at it and it just looks uncomfortable.
No, it's quite comfortable. It is a bedazzled sequined hat. My California Golden Bears hat that I bought for my brother and I bought for our mother at the big game, maybe 30 years ago, 32
And
years
she was
ago.
like, this thing is way too uncomfortable. Take this thing
She
back.
loves it. It has a nice inner lining. It is quite comfortable. But she now, when she goes to games or when we go to games, she needs a little bit more protection from the sun, so she can no longer wear it. So now it is.
That looks like it offers a lot of protection from the sun. I feel like everybody sitting around her needs extra protection from the sun because of the way it bounces off.
That's the thing. Yeah, it deflects in every direction. So
Yeah.
it might be the most protective thing from the sun.
She's like a blue disco ball. Like her head is a blue disco ball.
But yes, mom has had some skin cancer issues in the past, so she definitely is very very careful about such things now. So
yeah.
No longer.
So
mine.
Now that I'm going to try zero way to segue away from that seamlessly, none whatsoever.
Okay.
But so we have a few topics that we're gonna hit on. Minutes before we went live, Adrian Wojnarowski sends out a tweet about the labor negotiations being pushed back. That both sides agreed to push back the deadline by which they have to come to an agreement, otherwise enter into actual.
No. They agreed to push back the date in which either side can opt out. So it's not that they have to have the agreement in place, but either side.
Right, but like essentially, if you're opting out, you're not thrilled with the agreement.
It would appear, but they're giving themselves more time to come to some agreement. You know what's been really weird? I think they talked about this with Spears on Hoop Collective. And no, it was with I think it was actually with Bobby Marks and Windhorse about how there've been like just no talk about anything. It just seems like it's like we're not hearing about this. This is the first time we've heard about it. And from what I heard, let's just say that a couple weeks ago, like both sides were like so far apart that it wasn't even worth discussing. But it still seems amicable. Like both sides expect to get something done and want to get something done. So I've been surprised, as Windhorse talked about with Bobby Marks, that there just has been like no public chatter about it at all.
Do you think Ralph Pelinka is negotiating on behalf of the owners, and that's why they're kicking the can down the road? Like, do you think?
No, I do not. I do not think that. No.
We need to wait 20 more games to figure out if we want to opt out of this thing.
I mean, there is a new deadline. Both sides agreed to a new deadline today.
That is the both sides of the labor negotiations, the players union and the owners, or I guess governors or whatever. They are going to now look. If you want to look at this optimistically, the fact that they are willing to push this back would, I think, signal that hey, maybe some ground has been covered. That if things were not amicable at all. If both sides were so far apart that it wasn't even discussing, they wouldn't push it back. They were just like, all right, we're going to opt out of this thing. And that's going to be
that's why it's weird, though, is that I don't think the sides are particularly close.
No, I don't think they're close, but I think they're closer than...
we'll get there. So there isn't the animosity that there normally is when there's that kind of divide.
So we're going to talk about that a little bit. We're about, just past a quarter of the way through the season. And there is, I think, a lot of ground to cover when it comes to how it has gone for the Lakers, things, bright spots, things that we think the Lakers can improve on, whether that is personnel or in terms of the roster that they have right now and the approach that they're taking to it and the execution of that approach. There's plenty of that, but I wanted to start with my night on Twitter last night was kind of interesting. Did you see this?
No. Maybe. What are we referring to specifically?
Well, so Paul Pierce sends out a tweet. Did you see the tweet?
No, I didn't. I did not see Paul's tweet.
All right.
I don't think.
So the tweet is Paul Pierce. This is what he writes. Who's taking the last shot? Game on the line here.
Oh, yeah, I did see that. Him
Still
and Kobe.
can't believe,
I did see that.
Mamba not here. Rest easy, goat. Okay.
Yeah.
and the picture is of Michael, Kobe, and Paul.
Yeah.
And I replied with the meme of the three dragons that are drawn there. Right, two of them look super fierce, and the
One's
third,
like googly eyes. Yeah.
with his tongue out. I look, I couldn't help myself. It's Paul Pierce. I'm still bitter about
Not your
him shitting
favorite?
his pants and
your favorite?
coming out and pretending like he was hurt.
Right.
So-
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I've said this on this show before. You do not get to go out on a wheelchair
Yeah.
when you have a shoulder injury and then come back.
Right.
Like if you
No.
get first of
He
all,
shot himself. There's
of course
photo
he did.
evidence of
course
this.
he did. You
Yeah.
do not get to. Yeah. All right. Yeah. I'll leave it
But
like that.
so Paul Pierce sends this out, and I'm always open to an opportunity to needle Paul Pierce and Paul Pierce and Celtics fans. So I sent out that meme, and I got
By
a
the way,
response.
if people watching, if I seem distracted, I'm not. If I turn away, it's because I have a TV over here showing the World Cup, so I'm paying attention to Argentina and
So
the Netherlands.
you said I'm not distracted, but I have
No.
a T over here with a distraction.
Yeah, no, I can look over and see what's going on and still listen to you. It just may look like I'm not paying attention to those of us watching on YouTube or Twitter or
See,
Facebook.
I'm fully committed to what we're doing here, Aaron. My TV right over there has nothing on it.
What?
Although you did just remind me that Argentina is playing, so I'm probably going to change it. Probably going to change that.
This is,
So
by the way, what's your beverage today?
water.
No.
Water. I'm really
was
trying to
gonna
watch my drinking.
I was gonna say that's a good thing. I was gonna say, like, we say we're completely committed to the show. Well, from episode 1, we've had a cocktail.
No, the truth is, I would normally have like something next to me, a beer or something like that.
Yeah,
but
red wine.
right after, yes, it's delicious.
Red wine's great. It's too early for that though.
I would normally have that in front of me here, but right after this, it's Jen's birthday weekend, so I'm going to go off and I bought her a charcuterie board, so I have to drive into Austin to pick that up and bring it back here. It's actually, that there's a Chase
What's
commercial.
Austin? About 20 minutes from you, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Depending on traffic. But
Austin's fun.
there's a Chase commercial,
Okay.
and it's of this couple, and they say, "I'm so and so Antonelli, and I'm so and so Antonelli."
Yeah,
and
yeah.
we're
We're
the
the
Antonellis.
Antonellis. Yeah.
The cheese shot. So I'm picking up a charcuterie board from the Antonellis cheese
Oh.
shot. Yeah.
Oh,
So
advertising works.
it does.
Get out
It
of
does.
Chase.
And I just gave him some free stuff.
I was
All
like,
right.
get out of Chase.
So and so and so and so Antonelli. When I get there, I'm mentioning this podcast, and you're going to give me my board for free. That's how this is going to work out.
I think that's not going to go well for you.
I don't
but
think that's
give it a
gonna
go.
Yeah.
Give it a shot.
So, I want. So last night was a weird night because anytime I've had. There's
Did
a
Paul
few
respond to you
instances-
or just
He did.
the lead you?
He did.
Oh, that's what happened. Okay.
Yeah,
got it.
anytime an athlete responds, it's happened to me a few times or whatever, because I can't help but be snarky on Twitter.
I mean, you can help it, but you choose to be.
I cannot. I cannot.
of course you
physically help
can.
myself. No, I cannot help
Yeah,
myself.
no, you can. You choose not to. Don't take your agency and your decision making away. You are not a passenger in your own life. You are choosing to do that. You could not if you wanted to not, but you want
Aaron,
to, so you do.
You've been talking to me for how many years now? Like
you and I
3
have known
years.
each other a long time.
Yeah. If something pops in here, it's either coming out my mouth or it's coming out my fingers onto the Twitter feed.
God, you
Like-
guys have no idea what our Slack looks like. You think you guys have it bad following Anthony on Twitter or listening to him on the various platforms and shows. Oh God, you guys have no idea what you don't get. And
So-
just gets buried on Slack.
So Paul responds and he goes, and it
That's
was a
what
good response. It was a funny
Yeah,
response.
all
It was a full day later, but he did respond.
Okay.
And he goes, "That's still a dragon." And he actually used an emoji. He didn't take a picture of an emoji and put it onto his Twitter feed. He used an emoji and put it on there. And you know what?
I mean, yeah, he's right. Yeah.
I
that is
still
good.
responded. I still responded in a snarky manner.
Oh no,
you
should have left it alone there.
I can't help myself. Like I said, I respond like you've watched Game of Thrones, right?
Yes.
You remember when little Drogon was like a little baby dragon and he goes to like heat up his meat? It's like this tiny little like
Yeah.
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 So like, technically still a dragon.
Yeah.
Just a itty bitty baby.
Why didn't you do one of these as not like the other? Do the old Sesame Street.
Well, because that was the point of the first meme. Like that was the point of the first
Yeah,
meme.
and he went, it's the same, I'm still a dragon.
Yeah,
I
but
like it's a good response from Paul. It's a good
It
response.
is a funny
he's
response. And
bad at
honestly, I
social
kind of
media.
regret my response. I wish I would have said, "You know what, Paul? Fair. You Fair.
I mean, let's be fair.
That was
that
funny.
is perfect because Paul Pierce is like, for whatever we want to make fun of him, for whatever we don't like about the Celtics, for how great it was that Draymond, when he was a Clipper and tried to have that like farewell tour, and Draymond just got at him from the free throw line, like, they don't love you like that. You're not Kobe. For all
some
of how
reason,
wonderful,
Twitter enjoys shitting on Paul Pierce.
for all of that wonderfulness, like, he is one of the all-time greats.
Well,
is
he's
he
a Hall of
Kobe?
Famer.
Is he Kobe and Jordan's level? No.
Yeah.
But like, to be fair, Kobe's not Jordan's level,
Yeah,
and
that's
there are
where-
not guys that are like. That's
Well,
why
hold
they
on.
are the top. Whatever.
In that specific regard, Kobe taking late shots, like I trusted him in a way that I would trust. Well, Jordan was terrifying, so I didn't root for. I think it's different when you're rooting for a player because you see more of those shots. Whereas if you're rooting against a player and that
when you're
player
rooting
gets
against,
open,
it feels inevitable.
oh my god, dude. But
When it's
yeah,
your guy, he can shoot like 45% on those shots, and you're like, okay, that's good, I guess, fine. But when it's the other guy, it just feels inevitable.
yeah.
Like, of course it's going in.
I just wanted to ask, like, so this is where I don't think I think I could be better from like a content perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because like I personally am sitting there and I'm just like, I just want to have a little more fun with it, send out one more little dragon meme or gif and get out of there. That's fine. But I could also see some people have presented that opportunity trying to like escalate things. And I think I prefer my route. I think I prefer either not saying anything, leave it alone, let this guy get the last laugh, or like make another joke and pop out of there. But what I am like when I say I can't help myself but send out funny like snarky stuff on Twitter.
Right. You will not. You can, but you will not.
Well, like this is another example of things that I cannot be like hardcore radio host who like uses that opportunity to up the clout, right? That's not something that I can possibly do. Yeah, like that is not something I'm capable. I can't. Like we should try to do a segment. Harrison used to do this. Where it was like Harrison's hot takes, and he would come on and he would like scream onto the microphone. He would read a little thing, and he would scream into the microphone. And he's very good at writing, so like they always wound up being funny. I can't be that kind of serious without breaking character. I can't do it. You know.
I mean, there is an option to just not say anything to begin with. That is an option.
No.
I realize that's complicated and difficult for you, but that is an option.
Look,
you can let Paul Pierce just go on about his day.
No, not if you're putting yourself in that category. Here's the thing.
We talk about this all the time. To be as good as Paul Pierce has been, you have to think you are the best dude that has ever played basketball. You have to. There is no other way.
You also
everybody
had like
everybody in the NBA, everybody that has made it into the NBA, thinks that there is no one better than them. You have to. Intellectually, you understand the truth, but you, especially to get to Paul Pierce's level. And by the way, I've played against just about everybody on planet Earth in that age range bracket. And when the time I was on the court with him, Paul Pierce was the best dude I've ever seen in my life. And I played against Magic, Kobe. I played against everybody.
Magic, really? Magic would have been like 50 by the time you were playing against him.
No, this is when I was 18 or 19. No, because everybody used to come play at UCLA in the summers. Anyway, Paul Pierce was the best dude when I was on the court, he was the best dude I have ever seen. Okay. Obviously, he's not the best player I've played against, but in that moment on the court, he was the best dude I've ever played against. And Paul Pierce, did he make the top 75? I think he did, right? Probably. I don't know if he did. But,
he shouldn't have, but he maybe did.
In any event, he's a Hall of Famer. To get to that level, it is inherent in getting there. To be able to get there, you have to have that confidence. And that confidence that says, I'm the best ever, period.
However, you also had a 15 or so year career where you were informed by way of that career and by way of those experiences, you weren't those guys.
You're not that guy. What was that video that came out a few years ago?
The guy in the grocery store. You're not that guy. You're not that guy,
pal.
Yeah, like I just, and look, like you said, Paul Pierce, Hall of Famer, all those things. I'm kind of curious who could be in that image where you would say, all right, now I'm considering having Paul Pierce take the shot? Is that like Dirk?
What are we talking about? All-time greats?
No, I'm saying like where like so he put like
anybody, me and you with Paul
the
Pierce.
punchline. No, the punchline here is that he put himself
who would you pick?
next to Michael and next to Kobe.
Yeah.
And what makes it funny is like, dude, you're not that guy with those guys. But there is a class of NBA player who, if you put him in an image with those guys, you would say like, okay, yeah, I'd be confident with Paul taking a shot above
Paul
these
made
two
some
players.
big shots.
Sure. Right. That's what I'm saying. Like I'm not saying it's like I'm not saying, Corey Maggette is the like we're dropping it all the way down to Corey Maggette.
Has the greatest travel in NBA history. I will accept no Corey Maggette slander.
Corey Maggette is one of the best looking NBA players in the history of the sport.
A good looking dude, yeah.
I remember like watching him. I was like, this guy, like what? This guy's a model.
Yeah, and
this guy can't possibly be great at basketball looking like that.
It's him and Andre Iguodala that we say they have edamame arms because their biceps are so round and defined. They have edamame arms. Yeah. So who was it? So I think so for guys that
where are we putting that? Like if Paul Pierce was in a picture of two and two other players are there.
Yeah.
The best two players that you can put in that picture who you're comfortable with Paul Pierce taking that shot above those two players.
I think it has to be like for that level of player, like top 75 or fringe top 75, but Hall of Famer. I think it has to be where it's like definitively Paul. I think it has to be big guys because they're dependent players, right? And like even the guys that are much better than him, Shaq, for example, like Shaq doesn't have a lot. He doesn't have a lot of options, right? So I think you need somebody, and that's one of the things. Paul Pierce was kind of a big wing, right? But handled a little bit, could get his own shot. So I think you need like that class for it to be that class of player that I definitively want Paul. I think it's got to be bigger guys that are more dependent on them. That's why, like in the playoffs, offensively, guards and wings are more important because it's got the other guys are dependent for that last second shot. I need somebody
that was the macro talking. Oh my God. So before we went live, I was annoyed at myself because I couldn't remember what I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
And I wanted to say how like wings are the most important role player in the NBA right now.
Okay. Well, let's get to it.
Well, no.
Like,
I mean,
example,
like that's something we've well traversed territory.
So,
but like go ahead.
Here's the thing. Like Anthony Davis is a better player and will, when he's done, be higher on the all-time list than Paul Pierce. And Anthony Davis famously made that incredible shot to win the game in the bubble against Denver. But that's not a shot that Anthony Davis can dribble into.
Yeah.
Right? So you're going to say, who do I want taking a last-second shot, Anthony Davis or Paul Pierce? Paul Pierce. Like LeBron can dribble into that shot and get whatever he wants. So I think it has to be, even though Anthony Davis is a better player than Paul Pierce, I think it has to be somebody that can dribble into a shot themselves, because there's more optionality there.
LeBron or Paul Pierce in that image would set the internet on fire.
Stop it, LeBron, stop it. And by the way,
I'm saying.
By the way, I would take LeBron over Jordan and Kobe too.
Not in terms of like just creating your own shot. That's not something
the numbers.
That's not something. No, he's very good at making the right read or whatever. But if he has to shoot there,
even on his own shots, the like clutch time stuff. Like Jordan and Kobe are very similar, and they have that whatever that thing is that we think like they're just killers.
Mm-hmm.
They
were great at making tough shots.
We deify what they actually did in those late moments, right? We remember all of their clutch shots, and we forget the ones that we don't. And with LeBron, because we like don't think he has that clutch thing, that killer mentality, therefore we remember his misses and don't remember his makes. LeBron is a fucking killer, and his clutch numbers, his last second shooting numbers are better than Kobe's, and they're better than Jordan's.
Okay.
That doesn't fit the narrative of LeBron.
No, like I've rooted against LeBron. We started the segment. We've no. I'm saying like I've rooted against Michael. I've rooted against LeBron.
Buckets, is that Messi? No, it's not. But Argentina 1-0. Excuse me, 1-0.
But I've rooted against all kinds of great players, right? Like I've been watching basketball for long enough and had a rooting interest in it long enough to where like you've had great players in positions to kill you late in games, right?
Right. Yeah.
And like when it came to like the least clutch player I have ever seen. He shouldn't even be in this conversation because he wasn't a great player like the caliber that we're talking about. But I remember like Doug Christie kept on getting left open in the series that the Lakers played against Sacramento. And every time he shot it, my dad and I would just bust up laughing. Just like no chance whatsoever this is
Go
going
ahead.
to.
Go ahead.
You know? Yeah.
I like Doug. But I like Doug. But when he was getting punked by his wife all those years, I mean, that's going to tell you something.
But so like I don't know. I've watched LeBron play against the Lakers and I've rooted against LeBron and I've never been terrified of LeBron in the last possession. Now, over the course of like clutch time, when he's sitting there and he can pick you apart and he was at the peak of his powers, that's the best I've ever seen, right? But on just the one possession, I wasn't as afraid of him as I was of like Michael or as I was of as I am of like
that's not
Steph or you know like these guys who and part of it is tough shot making. Like LeBron doesn't, to his credit, like he doesn't take tough shots. That's not, he won't let you force him into a tough shot.
He is doing more now, but like over the course of his career,
he can't move laterally. Like
over the course of your career, his career, you are correct. All right, so who's number one on your list then? Anybody in NBA history? Who are you picking?
Who I would have take that shot?
Yes, you're down 2 with 4 seconds left. Or if you want to be down 1, that's fine too. But
those two guys. It's between Michael and it's between Kobe. It's those two guys for me. KD's good.
Kevin Durant, he can get anything.
Yeah,
Kevin Durant's 7 feet and he's a better shooter.
This is the funny thing about like the way that careers go, right? And the narrative that gets built around a career is that like KD, he absolutely belongs in all of these conversations, all of them. You know, he's going to probably go down as the most underrated player in the history of the sport. And
I mean, if not for losing basically 3-ish seasons, not quite 3 seasons, but like 2+ seasons. Well, if you include his early foot injury, it is like 3 seasons. If not for losing 3 seasons due to injury, I mean, he's probably finishes in LeBron territory as the all-time leading scorer.
Yeah, but I mean, like, yeah, he's the best bucket.
That dude is a monster.
Like I remember it was fairly early on in his career, and the Thunder were like on their way up, and the Lakers were either plateauing or on their way down. And the Lakers beat the Thunder in a series there. And I watched Kevin Durant like shut down Kobe while also being a walking, talking bucket. And I remember like walking away from that, I was like, that guy could be the greatest, like the best player I've ever seen.
He might be.
You know,
like I don't. That's
so that guy was unbelievable. But like because of some of the choices that he's made and the situation he finds himself in now, like I think he's going to wind up being way more underrated than he probably should be.
I think that's probably correct. And the fact that Steph and the Warriors won one before him and after him.
Yeah.
And he won it. And by the way, which is his complete right and choice, and go do whatever makes you happy or try to seek whatever happiness you can find.
Make whatever choices you want, but there are outcomes to those
scenario,
choices.
And the outcome so far has not been what he wants. He's just like, he will tell you, KD will tell you he's 6'9", and the reason he will tell you that is because he saw himself as a small forward. Yeah. And he thought that was the ideal small forward height. So he said, I'm 6'9".
Well, he's also
not telling you the truth.
Well, yes. Yeah. He's 7 feet tall, but like
at least in Portland, he got a bucket over Prisbilla, who's still one of my best friends to this day. Right. And Prisbilla is all of 7'1". Yeah. And so after the game, I'm giving Joel shit when KD got him. And he was like, what do you want me to do? The dude's my size and can jump. I look him in the eye, and Joel is a legit 7'1".
Yeah. Well, I remember, I think there's 2 like wild stories about Kevin Durant's length. One is if he sits like, during shoot arounds, right? You'll see these guys sit there in the courtside seats and they'll extend their arms out because they just kind of like, they sit back and they extend their arms out.
Yeah, and often they're going over doing like video stuff with assistant coaches.
Mm-hmm. But like Kevin Durant, I remember one time in Vegas, It was during a shoot around for one of the summer league games, and he was just kind of sitting there lounging in these courtside seats, and he's fully extended out, and his arms were going across 2 chairs next to him. So he took up a total of 5 seats, just sitting there with his arms straight out. And the other one, and this one I can't corroborate, but apparently he can sit in the back row of a minivan. He can sit in the back row of a minivan and open both front doors. Like he can, yeah. And he can, like he can. Some like teammate of his said they were in like AAU, or they were going, or they were in some like minivan going from, you know, the hotel to the arena, and I forget which teammate it was. He said, yeah, Kevin Durant was in the back row, and he opened up both the front seats of this minivan as people were getting in, because we wanted to see how long his arms were.
So here's a fun story, Doc. So Joel tore his patella tendon, and so his wife, and she had gone back to Milwaukee for something, and so when Joel was rehabbing, I would go pick him up for practice. I mean, he wasn't practicing, but I would like go pick him up, and we'd go to the facility together. And so he had one of the ESV, one of the big Escalades, the longer Escalades.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would drive to his house and then pick him up. And he had the passenger side front seat removed so he could sit in the middle row and extend his leg.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have the seat back, right, to drive. And I looked over one time and his leg was sticking out. And it was basically like he basically almost could have driven from the back row, because his leg was like almost as far forward as my leg. And I'm not a small dude. I'm not little.
Yeah.
But we took out the front seat of the passenger side specifically so he could like have his leg straight in his brace.
Yeah.
And he was basically like he was as tall as I was sitting in the front seat. And I'm like a solid 6'1" with longer legs than torso. So
yeah. I mean, I know this is gonna sound elitist or whatever, but like if you ever have an opportunity, whether it's a preseason game, an actual game, a game in Charlotte or something like that, where the seats are super cheap, sit as close as you can possibly get to an NBA court. And it is going to absolutely blow your mind how big these human beings are and what they're capable of doing at that size.
Powerful, yeah.
Yeah, like that's why I say, like, you know, look, they're every time it comes up, it winds up being this like multiple days long debate on Twitter as far as like which sport produces the best athletes. For my money, it's the NBA, because it's the combination of the size and skill and athleticism that we're talking about here. And like, you know, I don't know how many NBA players have to be like the top football recruit in the country. You don't see it much the other way around, where somebody who chooses football was also the top basketball recruit. You do see it, though, in basketball, where LeBron was the top high school football recruit. Allen Iverson was the best quarterback in the country before he got to Georgetown.
Curry, who was the number 1 recruit in football and basketball and played both at North Carolina. This is back in the day, though.
The slam dunk contest champion Nate Robinson was a great cornerback at Oregon, Washington. Yeah. So like, but anyway,
Charlie Ward,
what these guys are capable of
at Florida State and chose the Knicks instead.
So what these guys are capable of doing at that size is obscene, and But see, I'm glad we started by talking about Paul Pierce. This is fun. We covered like 28 minutes of time here.
Yeah, KD is who I'm choosing to take any last shot. He's
a good one. That might be the you know.
And by the way, it might be Victor Wembanyama here pretty soon.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a good one. I like having guys who are capable of making shots that there is nothing you can do with, but who can also get that shot on their own. Because like you could theoretically say like Kareem, right, had a shot that nobody could do anything with, but he needed somebody to get him the ball.
Correct.
Give me somebody who can take a jumper, whether it was Kobe at the elbow, Michael on the baseline, Kevin Durant fucking everywhere.
Right. This is why like your Dirk thing is a good choice too, but he's not dribbling into that.
Right.
That 1-footed like step back with, you know, his knee up in the air, like nobody's getting to that because he's 7 feet.
Yeah.
He has that high release, but like he needs some help to get the ball.
Yeah. So
which is why
all right.
like AD is not the jump shooter, but AD would be a good choice too. But because he's a unicorn, he just needs somebody. He's a dependent player.
Yeah. All right. I want to discuss the CBA negotiations as we kind of discussed at the beginning of the show here. Again, Adrian Wojnarowski tweeting out that here's the couple tweets that we have. ESPN sources with labor talks ongoing, the NBA and Players Association are agreeing to extend the December 15th deadline that each side. Do you think that's why the Lakers haven't made a move? Rob wants like the CBA thing figured out, and then that like they'll come back to it kind of thing. Deadline that each side has to give notice of plans to opt out of the current CBA in December 2023. Ratification of extension will come at the Board of Governors meeting on Wednesday. The negotiation extension is expected to be into February, sources said, and allows sides to continue negotiating on a new labor deal. Current CBA expires at the end of the 2023-24 season. Some topics, some of the main topics, as I know them to be, that are the most heated negotiations here. It's always BRI. It always comes down to BRI. Yes. Basketball related revenue or income or whatever.
Basketball related income, yeah.
That's always the top one. When you're talking about percentage points one way or the other, they can only go one way or the other. The other one that is being discussed quite a bit are length of contracts and players trying to get out of those and not playing during them and forcing trades out of them. That is one major issue here at stake. The NBA keeps adding things to the season, whether it's this upcoming the play-in game in the first place, and then now this midseason tournament. At some point, the players are going to say, "Hey, we keep lengthening this thing for you. When are we going to get something in return for that?" Is one major topic, and the last one here that is most, I think, relevant to Lakers fans is the draft age.
Yes.
There are some in the NBA who want that draft age lowered. This is a fascinating one because the players union probably against lowering the draft age.
They're absolutely against it.
Yeah, they don't
want more guys coming in to take current jobs.
Exactly. So, and the reason that this is relevant for Lakers fans is because a lot of LeBron's kind of final steps in his career are apparently going to have a lot to do with Bronny when he gets drafted, where he gets drafted, all of that stuff. So
he gets drafted.
I think eventually he'll get drafted.
He's getting drafted, but
eventually, whether it's like right out of high school and early on in the draft, or it's a year out of college and it's later in the draft, whatever it might look like. He still needs to grow.
Depending on which scouting service you look at, he's somewhere between in the 30s/40s of his class, which absolutely makes him a high major level player.
Yeah.
I've seen him some, and from what I've seen, I think those rankings are about right, maybe slightly generous, but about right. I think he's a high major player. I don't think he's one of those guys that comes into a high major and starts in year one. But yeah, it is fascinating.
He's what, like 6'3"?
He's 6'2". That's the problem.
Yeah, like
his younger brother Bryce is bigger than him.
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting is that, like, generally both sides don't want it. Like both sides don't want. Like the owners don't want straight.
I think this is something that the TV partners want a lot more than either side of the negotiation.
Well, and very powerful people within the Players Association want it.
I mean, it's LeBron, I guess, but that's...
I mean, he seems pretty powerful to me,
right? I like you saying some. I think it's only the one.
No, I mean he can collect whatever votes he needs.
Yeah.
But the teams don't want it because, well, the teams don't want it without a caveat, and the caveat is they want to be able to have a lot more information about the kids coming out of high school.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it which may border on
too much
invasion stuff. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And And I understand why the teams
Where
want
do
it
you draw
because
the line there? That's a tough one. I think
uh,
all of your medical history has to be available, flat out. Like
yeah,
that's
but
almost
that's but yeah,
indisputable.
but what that means now though is more than it meant a handful of years ago because
Yeah, we
now
have more
all your
information on the
medical
body.
what's that?
We have more information on the body.
Correct. And we have better processes to use that information to be predictive.
Hmm.
Um
I don't think that's
so I mean
invasion.
my wait, what say that again?
I don't think that's invasion. I think that's just, that's just information. Like if these guys are going to be asking for tens of millions of dollars, right? Especially if you're coming out of high school and you're going to be a high lottery pick,
Yeah.
those contracts are worth $20 million, right? Like
They'll be more than that. You'll probably in 2 years from now, the first pick probably will start at 10, 11 million in their first year and go up from there. So it's it's 40, it's 40 million. It's probably 50 million if all the options are picked up.
Right. I think in that, like where I would probably draw the line is in the intangible character stuff. Right. And I think this is where the NFL oversteps some of this, where they have these interviews with prospective talent and they get to ask whatever they want. Like, I think something that the NFL really has to do, and I think all of these leagues should probably look at, is standardizing those questions. And, there are some things like there was there was some players being asked about their moms, and like that's to me, that is where I would draw the line. So, that personal information is personal information.
So they would say, what I think they would say, the reason that they don't standardize it is because if you standardize it, it's going to get out.
Yeah, and you get to practice your responses.
Right, and they want, I think the point of it is to make guys uncomfortable and catch them off guard and see how they react and respond to that.
There can be an explanation for it. I don't think it's an excuse to ask some of the stuff that we found out that gets
I think it is. I think it is. You know what? I'm just going to say. I think it's inherently racist that there's an age limit.
Yeah, it's a systemic thing. It only seems to be black sports that deal with this. Baseball.
I'll even go with. I mean, look, the NFL at this point is a black sport, and I'll even allow that because physically, there aren't just like an 18-year-old just physically they cannot go play football against grown men. They just can't. Mm-hmm. Like it is dangerous for them to do that because their bodies are not ready. Basketball is a contact sport, but not a collision sport and not a inherently violent sport like football is. But I don't know why, like nobody has a problem when a golfer or a tennis player is a pro at 14 or 15 or 16 or whatever. By the way, I think that's the right rule. I think baseball has it right. And this is what I would like to see for basketball. If you want to come out after high school, fine, go for it. But if you go to college, you have to be there for a certain number of years. That can be negotiated to, I think in baseball it's 3, but I think that's fine. I think that is fine. But I do think there are like some inherent prejudices and racism in forcing black kids that if the free market says they are ready to get paid to play basketball, then let them get paid to play basketball. The response would be, well, there's the G League Ignite and there's Overtime Elite where they can go make money, or they can go overseas and make money. Fine. But those are opportunities, but are not opportunities like the NBA.
That also puts that kid at risk. There's and
we're seeing in-season tournament. I think is going to be an interesting one because the way that, and I was completely against the play-in tournament, but I now after it's been here a couple of years, I actually think it's pretty good. Mm-hmm. The in-season tournament,
it allows the Lakers to have a chance at the playoffs.
I mean, if you want to say, like, did the NBA get it right? The only answer you need is go check the ratings from the Lakers Warriors play-in game. And I believe it was like one of the most watched games.
One of the most watched ever.
Of however long.
Yeah. Certainly the most watched play-in game ever.
It's up there with finals games.
Yeah.
No, that's the Lakers brand, the Warriors brand, but more importantly, LeBron and Steph.
Mm-hmm.
But so that means it's a success. Period. The midseason tournament, much like those trophies that they just released are terrible. They look like shot glasses that the NBA got at airports from various NBA cities and brought back home. All those those new trophies are terrible. But it's kind of like I think the NBA is trying to solve a problem that is unsolvable. How to make people care more about the regular season. And
it is solvable. It's not realistically solvable.
Okay,
it's not financially solvable.
Fine. Like, oh, a trophy for the best record in the league. Okay, congratulations, Phoenix Suns. You're getting bounced again, but here's your trophy.
That's something that I do think we should celebrate more than we do. Like we should give. You know what you do? You give financial bonuses to the teams who do that.
Who have the best regular season record?
Yeah, you give financial bonuses. Just like I think you actually want to solve tanking. If the league actually wants to solve tanking, say that the teams that have been in the lottery for we'll say 3 straight years. If you're in the lottery for 3 straight years, especially upper lottery for 3 straight years, you're doing that on purpose. And I think if you're in the lottery,
or you're just bad, or you're just mismanaging,
dude, that means you've had 2 drafts
in mismanaging. You can be bad at drafting without doing so intentionally. You can just be bad.
Fine, but I think if they actually want to end tanking, then you start saying, all right, if you're in the lottery for 3 straight years, especially the upper lottery, top 5 picks for 3 straight years, you don't get that year's luxury tax revenue. You don't get access to that. That gets dispersed out to the other teams who were there. And now those owners who, whose management is going out there and losing on purpose, they'll end that real quick. That's how you basically. And look, I know I'm cynical on all this stuff, and I know that it comes off as glib at times. But what you want to solve a lot of problems. Find some financial incentive.
Take rich people's money away.
Yeah, you want to solve a lot of problems. Let's actually get down to what these people's entire lives are devoted to.
Okay, that's a good segue to the mid-season or in-season tournament, because which I'm also completely against. But they do. Edwin, they do.
Yeah. Everything's throwback nowadays.
Adam Silver, this seems like his baby, kind of, it'll happen because it's his baby. But and it's like a European soccer model, and American sports fans aren't built that way. We don't care, right? Yeah. We want
we've been trained.
We want the thing at the end, where I am better than everyone else. That's it. Mm-hmm. That's all we want. There was one winner and everyone else is a loser. That's what we want. That's what we have been conditioned to. But I think the players will be into it. You're going to say, why do the players care? If there is enough of a financial incentive for the players and they don't have to play any more games, if you're saying, all right, we're still playing the 82, this handful counts towards seeding for the midseason tournament, and then we're going to play in the midseason tournament. And if we win, you get $1 million a guy or whatever it is. And it gives the NBA another property to sell for TV, and they can make up that money plus make whatever they're going to make. I think it'll happen because the players are going to say,
it's definitely happening.
I mean, it seems like it, but the players are going to use it.
Shams has all but come out and say it hey, buy your tickets.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen, but the players get to use it as a negotiating point in all of this because the Players Association is going to say they don't want it, right? Yeah. And what's going to happen is the NBA will figure out a way to financially incentivize the guys and not make them play any more games than they were going to anyway. And then everybody's going to say, okay, I'm not into it. I don't care if the Lakers win a mid-season. I don't want anybody raising a banner. I think any team that raises a mid-season Stern Cup or Silver Cup banner for winning the mid-season tournament should be made fun of because we don't care. But if you can find a way to do it where the players don't have to play any more games than they would otherwise, and it doesn't impede them going towards their real goal, which is winning an NBA title. Because I don't think 40 years from now, we're going to say, player X won 2 midseason cups. So
I think I disagree with that.
He was the midseason finals MVP. No,
I think I disagree with that. 40 years from now, when we've been trained over plenty of time to care about that, but 10 years from now is when we're going to say
do you care?
Really, we're adding this stuff to this.
So how about this? Let's say, I don't know, next year, maybe the year after. Right? Do you care if the Lakers, other than they're winning those games so that will help them in seeding towards the NBA, like the playoffs and the NBA finals. Do you care if the Lakers win the mid-season cup?
I think so. Like,
those games carry extra weight for you.
Yeah, like I cared about like the Lakers winning the summer league title. Like that was something I got behind. That was a blast. I had a lot of fun that summer rooting for that Lakers summer league team. Like
those were good summer league teams.
You assign if here's the thing, like if you market it right, and if you really get behind, you throw resources behind it, you offer up those financial incentives so it looks like these players care about it more. Like that's been the problem with.
I guess if the players care and the organization cares, then the fans will end up.
Yeah,
caring.
if you market it like this grandiose thing, like I think it can look, man. I'm a salesman by nature. Like if you give me an opportunity to sell something, and if it's properly sold to the public will care. The big question is whether the NBA is willing to pay up to incentivize these players to do it, right? Like the reason the NBA All-Star Game has become kind of blasé before the
awful.
Well, I think the last couple have been better with the first year that they did the Elam ending was incredible. I thought that was really good. Dangerous because you had guys playing like 5 overtimes, but it was really good. The drama was incredible. If you can make it look like the players care about it, then
if you can make it look like basketball with the best guys,
right? Yeah. But like that, that's the the inherent problem with the NBA All-Star Game is that they don't want to put more money into it, but they haven't made it so that these guys look like they care.
But
nobody looks like they care in those.
Well, but here's another issue, right?
Unless it's close late, then it gets really good.
Well, and like Steph cared about trying to break, I think it's AD's record, right, for scoring in an All-Star game. Maybe he did break it, and he was trying to get 50. Anyway, or maybe he got 50 and AD had 52. I don't remember. But like, so the individual stuff guys care about, and guys do care about winning All-Star Game MVP.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for the Kobe stuff, but also because that is one more thing on your legacy, on your resume. Yeah. The problem is those that, and this is a problem for the All-Star Game, and it will be a problem for the mid-season tournament. Like, what is the number that makes people care, right? Like,
it's different per player.
That's the problem, right? Like, $1 million for winning this tournament. Does LeBron care? No.
I think LeBron
AD care? No.
I think LeBron will care because it is an extra box that he gets to check, right?
Yeah, maybe.
Like in his when you're talking about like
I don't think you're getting, but
it's the mid tiers max player. Like, will Bradley Beal care? Probably not.
No,
he hasn't cared to this point anyway. But will
JTA care? Right? Like,
yeah,
right.
That doubles the salary.
Right? Is $1 million a motivating factor for JTA? Yes. Is there a number that you can get so that you're going to get the best out of LeBron? Yeah, I mean, sure, but what is that number? And is that tenable? And here's the other thing, like you're saying, will LeBron care because it's a box to check?
Yeah.
Yes, unless LeBron feels like that materially impacts his chances to win the real tournament that he actually cares about.
Have the Lakers asked the league if that $15 million bonus counts against luxury taxes? Is that a conversation that they've had?
Not to my knowledge. Hennessy is unnamed cognac is delicious, and I'm out of it. But that is, by the way, that is another point that is going to be. I think there are going to be some changes to luxury tax penalties, and if you have your own guys, if you're extending your own guys, if there's some sort of rebate, either on the cap or the tax or both. I think there's going to be some changes to the financial structures there too. That's one of the other things that's being negotiated.
Yeah. It's an interesting one. I come back to, like, I remember heading into the last negotiations that there was a lot of lockout talk heading into that, but that contract was actually put in place before there was any like walkout or strike or anything, because there was so much money on the line. And with this upcoming CBA negotiation, you have the upcoming TV deal potentially in play, the national TV deal, which is it's going to be multiple billions of dollars. And there's so much money on the line here that I once again don't think we're going to see a strike. They can be as far apart as they want right
No.
now, but come February, I think they're going
No.
to start inching closer. And I think,
No,
by the
not
way,
happening.
I think this extension that we got today, this report from Woj about the extension, has a lot to do with the fact that
It's-
everybody like the
it's
union
indicative of
leadership-
that very thing. Yes.
Yeah, the union leadership and the governor leadership, they both all like both sides kind of talked amongst each other and like, wait, how much is on the line?
Right.
on, what?
We're doing what? Well, and this is then like there's a new TV deal coming and the salary
Yeah.
cap is going up. I think that's going to be another issue because I think the league knows they fucked up in 16 when they
Yeah.
didn't when there was the jump due to the TV deal and they didn't smooth it and they just
Mhm.
put all the money into the salary cap going up, whatever it meant, went up 30 million or whatever.
And
it did
one
in
team
1
used
year.
it for Kevin Durant, the other team, another
They
team
did.
used it for Luol Deng and Timothy Mozgov. Yeah, that one.
Those are factual
that year?
statements. Yeah, those are factual statements. Yes.
That was one of the worst days of my Laker fanhood. Like, I remember.
Well,
I was
what's
in
funny is
Havasu.
Mozgov and Deng were before Durant. They were January 1st
Yeah,
immediately.
it was like midnight. Yeah.
KD wanted to fuck up everybody's 4th of July, so he announced then.
It was the first call that
Jim
Mitch
just
Kupchak made.
outside of Luol Deng's.
I
It's
remember-
actually Mozgov. He was first, I think. Just outside, like waiting in Mozgov's driveway, to knock on the door.
I was in Havasu and I was out on the boat.
You guys will know this by the time you listen to this, but LeBron is going to play tonight.
I think him and AD were both considered probable heading
LeBron
into
is
tonight.
playing.
Mhm.
How about that? LeBron is
you
actually
go.
playing.
Breaking
AD, I don't know yet, but LeBron's playing.
sauces.
Aaron's sources.
Oh, there's Dave McMenamin 4 minutes ago.
Oh, there you go.
So, all right. Last thing before we get out of here, this was going to be the bulk of the show.
Yeah, we're gonna do quarter poll grades.
Let's do best of the season to this point, worst of the season to this point, and where we think the season goes from here. So, best of the season to this point, I think, is a pretty clear answer for me.
Yeah, the resurrection of AD has to be it, right?
Anthony, yeah.
Yeah.
We're talking about AD.
Yeah.
Like,
Also, but hold on, with a hat tip to Darvin Ham and Russell Westbrook.
okay.
Because Russell Westbrook off the bench was something we all
I think that's the
thought
best story of the year.
but
of the Lakers
no,
year.
but even for on-court results has been, I mean, it's not as impactful as LeBron, it's not as impactful as Anthony Davis, but Russ as not a distraction and as a positive contributor on the floor, we need to acknowledge and give him credit and give Darvin credit for that.
Yeah, I wrote for Silver Screen earlier this week that Russ deserves his flowers for that, and
Yeah.
the part of it that I keep kind of coming back to is he didn't have to do any of that. Like, he could have made
Correct.
a stink, he could have been sent home, and he could have ended his career. And if that was the end of his career, it would have sucked, but it still would have been an incredible career. Like, it would have sucked that his career
He
ended
would
that
have
way.
gotten
but it's
another
still-
chance somewhere, but yes.
I don't know.
He would have gotten
we
another
saw that with Allen Iverson.
I'm not. Allen Iverson got like 4 more chances. They didn't go well, but he got like 4 more.
Yeah, but he
chances.
was never the same.
No, and Russ is not the same. But to be able, but that takes some stones.
Well, but
that
what I
takes
mean by
some
the same is, like,
reflection to notice that and still
Iverson
be
was never
positive.
again a winning player. I think Russ right now has proven in this role he can be a
He
player who
presently
helps
is a
you
winning
win.
player. Yes.
Yeah,
Or a winning player. He's contributing towards winning.
yeah,
And
right.
from where we were last year, and by the way, look,
That's
you know
the wild
great,
one.
You know the great encapsulation of it, or like the proof of that. Lakers fans in general
Mhm.
don't want to trade him anymore. Lakers
Yeah, that's
fans
been
now
wild
are
in my
like,
mentions.
like Lakers fans are like now. It's
People
like,
have been like begging,
let's see
please
what we
raise
can
your
get for
trade
Bev,
value.
like,
Please
Bev
raise your
and
trade
Nunn
value. He
now.
actually does. Wait, too high.
Right. Let's see what we can get. Like everybody wanted to send him out for like I don't even care if it takes 2 picks to send him out for a moldy ham sandwich
Tiddlywinks.
as you have said.
Yeah,
Everybody was like, send him out. I don't care what it is. Any Russ trade, just addition by subtraction, just get him out of here. And
Mhm.
now people are like, I don't know what's going to happen with the lack of creation. I don't know.
Yeah.
Now
they
it's
have
become
37 other guards. I think they'd be
I
fine creatively.
would say, but now the majority of Lakers fans, and I would
No, yeah.
probably say the vast majority, like, are okay with trading him, but don't want to trade him anymore. Now the first thought is,
No,
what can we get
I
for
think that's-
Nunn and Pat Bev?
I think that's an overcorrection. I still think most people want him traded. I think like the most people that I've interacted with and who interact with Silver Screen, which is a larger sample size than people just in my mentions.
Sure.
But most people, like when we write some new headline, the Lakers are waiting another week or two, or they want an all-star in return for both of those two picks. That wasn't necessarily the case before, according to previous reports. There are still people who are like, what? That, like, most people are quote tweeting those headlines with like, what the hell? Like, so like I wouldn't
but
go
the
so
people
far
that
as to say
don't
like,
want to are less likely to.
yeah, I
make
guess
us
it's
think
the
about
Yelp
it.
theory. I guess
Yeah.
that's true. But like
Okay,
I
but
guess
maybe even if it's 60-40 now, it was
it is still
99-1
significantly
before. Yeah.
Yeah, and the one was like my buddy Phil, who was on this pod earlier.
And Russ is better.
So I also last little thing on Russ, and I think this is an important point to make, especially given the Jerry Jones conversation that LeBron wasn't happy with how few people were having it. Jerry Jones to this, like the reason that all came up was because Jerry Jones at 14 years old at his high school was a part of was photographed, right, trying to bully black kids from going to his school and
Seemingly.
attempting to resegregate the school that he was going to, right?
Seemingly.
At least that was what the group that he was there with. He says he was curious, whatever. So the reason that was a conversation was because Jerry Jones has never hired a black head coach, right? In his time owning the Cowboys and making the main decision maker, the main decision maker there, he has never hired a black head coach. And the reason I say all of this is because, look, I like Frank Vogel. He's a champion head coach for the Los Angeles Lakers. He's somebody who was a key part of one of my favorite teams of all time. But clearly, there was something getting in the way of his ability to communicate optimally with Russell Westbrook. And he could not get Russ to come off of the bench. And he had something that he said reportedly that he was not willing to do because he thought he would lose Russell Westbrook. So he was actually limiting the number of options that he had to coach Russ because he was concerned that he would lose him. And that kind of says something implicitly about his ability to communicate with Russ. And then there were some questions raised by Russ himself about the communication level that Frank Vogel had with Russell Westbrook. And I do think in this case, Darvin Ham, being a former NBA player, being a fellow black man, being able to communicate that way, whatever he has to Russell Westbrook in whatever way he has been really valuable. And when I talk about diversity, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Just that ability, those experiences, and adding those experiences to important positions of power in your organization, adding that diversity is always a good thing. And in this case, it has had a real, tangible, positive effect on the Lakers. So when people were and to LeBron's point, I don't think enough people were talking about Jerry Jones's racist hiring practices and the lack of diversity that has kind of defined his tenure as Cowboys lead owner and lead decision maker. That is a worthy conversation. And whenever people say like, we watched so far this year the death of affirmative action, and when people are cheering the fact that affirmative action is dying, and they are cheering the fact that organizations going out of their way or being forced to go out of their way to bring more diversity to the fold. The reason why the reason why affirmative action had to exist in the first place is because every single time more diversity is added to the fold, these companies benefit. And yet, despite that, they were going out of their way to not continue to include more diverse options within their ranks. And yeah, I think part of this conversation here with Russell Westbrook and with Darvin Ham is that once again, as we have seen across the NBA, we're seeing black head coaches have a lot of success that some of their white predecessors may not have been able to enjoy because of the shared experiences that they have with the players that they're coaching.
Yes. I mean, I'm not going to speak about Jerry Jones, but yes, I think there is certainly value in having a diversity of opinions, voices, thoughts in any enterprise. And I don't know if it is specifically an indictment about Frank. I think it is more
No, it doesn't have to be.
whatever it is, whatever the ingredients are. And it may be just 100% Russ. It may be just it may be all Russ is matured and self-reflection and all of that. Maybe. But whatever it is working a lot better this year than it did last year. And I think Russ deserves a lot of credit for that. And I think Ham deserves a lot of credit for that. And even whatever the unseen factors are, maybe it's more AD and LeBron behind the scenes. Maybe it's Phil Handy. Maybe it's assistant coach, whatever it is. It certainly is been a much more positive thing this year than last year.
Yep. From what I have heard, and at this stage, there are plenty of conversations that I have, whether it's with people with the Lakers or people from around the league, but the reviews on Darvin Ham to this point have been stellar. And one of the main things that people have been bringing up more often than almost anything else is his communication level with Russ, that he is constantly on him, whether it's positive, negative, whatever. If something has to be said, he's very good at purveying that message, and Russ is taking it. Look, you can have the world's greatest communicator. At the end of the day, the person on the other on the other end of the line has to be willing to take that message in.
100% right.
So Russ does deserve that credit, but also Darvin's ability to communicate here is really critical. That's something that I think we see a lot of times with coaches as they age. That kind of falls by the wayside. To me, that's like the first thing that starts to go is their ability to convey that message
Relate
to younger
to
and
guys,
younger and younger guys. And in this case, obviously Russ is an older guy, but in this case, we saw kind of a breakdown in communication last year, and this year we're not seeing it. And I think that's it's cool for a lot of levels here.
How wild of a story! And I'm trying to think, and I can't think of any. I mean, I don't think the award has been around all that long, but have there been any all-time greats that have won Six Man of the Year? I can't think of any. And maybe they did if they
Manu?
did earlier in their careers. Manu's not on that level though, and Manu was kind of like always a six man. Yeah. I'm thinking more of like, and maybe there's some guys that
a great player who transitioned to that.
Yeah, I don't think
Bill
there
Walton,
are any.
Right, like at the end of his career.
Yeah, but he was beat up. That was
Michael
like
Thompson.
He was injury. Yeah, all right. Maybe it's not as rare.
There aren't very many of them.
Yeah,
and certainly
I think Russ is probably the front runner right now.
Yeah. Walton, by the time he did it with the Celtics, his feet were pretty broken down.
He was done.
So he had no choice. Russ, technically, well, I mean, based on his play last year, I would maybe say he didn't really have a choice. But yeah, he did.
No, but it's not a physical thing.
Yeah.
Right. With Bill, it was he couldn't. Like he was still that guy, but couldn't like physically hold up for that many minutes anymore.
Yeah.
You want negative stuff, mid-range stuff, what we expect, what do we think?
So let's do really quickly. I mean, people know my negative thing, roster construction. So I've been beating that dead horse all year. But is there something that stands out to you as far as the actual team, what they need to improve on most?
I mean, still, I think the imbalance of the roster is holding them back. I think, no, you know what I think the most negative thing is, and this can be like the front office
Twitter feed,
that hellscape. I think the front office deserves credit, right, for things like getting Darvin Ham, choosing Darvin Ham, which has been good, but the roster is also on them. So I would say the negative is Damian Jones and Kendrick Nunn and Pat Bev have been pretty non-existent. Yeah. But to offset that, Lonnie's been really good. So I think it's those three, like kind of striking out, at least thus far on those three, has been problematic. Like Schroeder, we'll see. It's been a little up and down. I think Thomas Bryant, when he's played, has looked pretty good. So I would say it's a mixed bag there. But let's say the biggest negative so far has been Pat Bev, because the most was spent to acquire him. So I would say the biggest negative has been Pat Bev just hasn't been. He's been okay defensively, not great. He's been okay.
Yeah.
His
An
offense is just
abysmal
completely
offensively.
non-existent. So I would
Yeah.
say the biggest negative so far has been Pat Bev, and then LeBron's health has been
Yeah.
concerning
Well,
also.
and even like beyond his help in availability, but when he's on the court, he can't move laterally. Like this has been the part that I don't think has gotten enough attention nationally. Like, everybody talks about like his availability and all that stuff, but like, to me, you watch him out there and he can't go around guys. It's kind of surprised me that, especially with AD at the 5, it's kind of surprised me that the Lakers aren't relying more on LeBron just going down to the post and going through people down there, because that seems to be the best way that he can get to the basket now. But they're doing a good job of getting him in motion and stuff.
Because there's not a lot of shooting out there anyway, and
Yeah.
AD has been hanging out around the basket a ton.
No, I understand why. I'm just saying that, like, if you're looking specifically to get LeBron going, like, it's not going to happen from the perimeter. He can't get around people from the perimeter. Not based on the way that he's moving so far this year. Maybe magically after they make a trade, he'll start moving better. But like, yeah, that's been kind of concerning. All right, how do we think the season plays out for the rest of the way here?
I'm actually more optimistic than I was earlier.
Okay.
I do
Me
think
too, because I think the league is pretty mediocre.
that's part of it also. Specifically the top of the East is still pretty scary, but the West in general, like, is there anybody you're worried about? Like, see, before I was worried about, okay, like, do you want to get to the play-in? You know, you fight and scrap, however you get to the play-in, and then you just get your teeth kicked in by somebody. I don't think there's anybody like
who's kicking in teeth.
Phoenix is a fraud.
Yeah.
Denver's
got mollywopped by
the
Boston
Clippers. We
last night.
thought the Clippers were going to be good. I'm through believing the Clippers are ever going to have Kawhi and Paul George for 10 games in a row.
They went to overtime the other night and they couldn't start in the overtime period.
I'm just done. Like, I've seen enough. I'm done thinking that they are going to play together 10 games in a row ever again.
Same kind of goes for Denver and
I'm
Michael
done.
Porter
Yeah,
Jr.
right.
Like,
the Warriors are still terrifying, but they're like kind of like don't know what they're doing and are stumbling around. I think Dallas is a fraud. Memphis is a little scary because I think their athleticism could give the Lakers some problems. Like, I don't know who's going to guard Ja. That kind of would scare me. But like, there's nobody, right? Like, so even if it's just like, I'll do what you can do to get in the play-in, like, we're back kind of to square one, which is like, if AD and LeBron are both healthy, like, I'll take my chances against anybody.
So you believe that they should trade both of those picks for?
That is not what I said. Here's the thing. No, I do believe they should trade both of those picks.
They should just maximize what the return is.
I don't think that there's anything out there yet that I have heard of that is worth that.
Yeah.
And I think I would probably have a pretty good idea of what's been discussed or what's available.
I just disagree because the league is so mediocre at this point that I don't think it takes much for the Lakers to get up into that upper echelon. That's what I said earlier in the week, and then they went out and beat Milwaukee. So look at that.
And I do think part of it has been informed by that. And then, AD being the destroyer of worlds in back-to-back games. Yes.
They didn't have LeBron against Phoenix. They were competitive in that game. There are not very many games this year where the Lakers just went out and got smoked. Where at least one of LeBron or AD played in. There aren't very many games that the Lakers were just like flat out outclassed, and it just hasn't really happened.
I'm trying to think of any.
Yeah.
I mean, the Warriors kicked their ass on the opener with both of them. But other than that, I don't think... Yeah, no. There's definitely... I'm sure there are some, but... Yes, I agree. Yes, that is what has made this season a lot more enjoyable than last season. Is it like...
Yeah, last year
fight here.
There were definitely
there's
some
resolve,
of those games.
There's some fight. There's... Yes.
So I'm looking at it. I'm just kind of scrolling through their record right now.
This trip win either tonight or is it tomorrow? Yeah, it's back-to-back tomorrow, right? Yeah, tonight and tomorrow. Win either one of those, and I think it is a very successful trip.
So
and Detroit is
Utah,
fucking terrible.
The first two times that they played Utah, they lost to Utah 130 to 116. That wasn't particularly close. They had LeBron in that. And then they got mollywopped by Utah when they had Davis.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't have James,
Yeah.
and that was a 139 to 116 final.
Yeah, they were
But
down
other
30
than
at one
that,
point in that.
like their losses have been relatively close, and they've been closer than like so yeah, no, they've been relatively close in most of their losses here. That's what's been kind of driving me insane. Is I think if they just had like two more players, right now they're sitting at 10 and 14. They could easily be like 14 and 10, 15 and 9. If they just had a more sensible roster heading into the year like that. And like when you started this,
What
by
was the
saying
Minnesota game?
Minnesota.
I think Minnesota kicked their ass once.
I'm looking for it. 111 to 102.
Right.
They had LeBron. They
back.
didn't have. I don't think they had AD in that one.
They did not, and that was against both of the. That was before Cat was hurt.
Yeah.
Minnesota
I don't know
without both of them, but
like you said, probably right. But like you started this by saying that you're more optimistic than you thought you would be to this point. I completely agree. I am a lot more optimistic than I thought I would be heading into the season. And it's not necessarily because like the roster is just magically better than I thought it was going to be. Like I still think there are serious questions about this. Lonnie has been good. I've been pleasantly surprised by Troy Brown. And
AD
there are
has
parts
been
of
mostly
this
healthy.
Anthony Davis, not just healthy, but
He's been the destroyer
incredible
of worlds for the past month.
Yeah, right. Like that has made me more optimistic in this. And again, the NBA has kind of been NFLified, where
You're talking about in terms of parity.
Yeah, a lot of mediocrity, and when there's a lot of mediocrity, you only need one or two things to go right.
Yeah.
I know you can't talk specifically about, players and stuff, but maybe the Lakers go out and they trade for Turner, they trade for Hield. Those guys fit absolutely seamlessly. LeBron takes a step further than he has looked so far this year, looks just a little closer to what you're accustomed to seeing from LeBron. And now all of a sudden you're talking about a top 3, top 4 team in the West, maybe a top 5 or 6 team in the league. And that to me has been the point all along, is just give those guys a puncher's chance. And that's why, and look, I know, and I wrote, and I talked to Harrison about this notion of maybe if the Lakers move one of their picks, they can't, like, it breaks the stalemate that they have with these teams. And maybe those teams just back away completely from the table. They say, you know what, you don't have both those picks. You don't have access to our guys anymore. Fine. But, if you go out and you move Pat and or Nunn for a player over here, Pat, Nunn, and a pick for a player over here, and then you move Russ and a pick for a player over there or a player or two over there, and now all of a sudden you're looking at, a team with 3 or 4 more NBA rotation players in place of at least 2 guys who are not right now NBA players. That all of a sudden is a team that makes a lot of sense. And I could really have confidence in, should they be healthy come playoff time.
So I agree with that. And I have suggested that internally. Not specifically any, well, you know what I can say? Like, yes, I have suggested exactly that path. Because I think it allows you to get down to brass tacks, what is it actually holding any other deal up? And it lets you, if it is a game of chicken, it takes that element away, right? It say, okay, well, we only have 1 pick left, so take it or leave it.
Yeah.
And then maybe the power dynamic, instead of it waiting for the Lakers to come to terms with giving up 2 picks in any one deal, it forces the other side to say, okay, well, here is what
I want one of those picks.
Here is what your choice is. You have one. Yeah. Do you want the one or none? Because this is all we have.
Right. The other, like, and another part of the story here, we kind of saw it with Miami in football, where, like, I think right now, and I've written about this for
the U.
Yeah. What? Okay.
The Dolphins or the U? University of Miami? The U?
Oh, no.
The Dolphins.
Definitely don't want anything to do with the U right now.
Okay.
But no, I wrote for Silver Screen, and you and I have had conversations about this. I've talked about this a lot in the Slack and on Twitter. I don't think that the front office is as confident as they would like us to think they are in LeBron and AD, right? in their ability to win a championship as the first and second best players on the team. And whether people disagree, agree, whatever, that doesn't really matter to me. For what I would like is for LeBron and AD to be able to make that case with the roster that makes sense. And I think like an example of that is what we've seen in Miami with the Dolphins and Tua, where there were some questions about him as a quarterback coming into the year. And they said, you know what? We are going to improve everything around him. And if he fails, it's because he wasn't the quarterback that we wanted him to be. If he succeeds, it's because we put him in a place that allowed him to succeed. And I think that's all I'm asking from this front office with LeBron and AD. I've seen them succeed with those two guys and a bunch of role players who know what they're doing and are somewhat predictable in their ability to do it. And that all I would like to see here is, if you have questions about LeBron and AD and their ability to spearhead a championship roster, fine, but at least give them a genuine shot at doing so. And I don't think, and like if I'm LeBron or AD, and by the way, the leaks from their camp so far this season would indicate that's all they're asking for too. Just give us a shot. There was the report. There was like leadership in the Lakers locker room says that they just feel like they're 2 players away. Who do you think the leadership is?
Yeah, but okay, sure, yes, and sure, but if there are those doubts, you just say, okay, well, give them a chance. Okay, but there's a cost to that. If
there was a cost to what Miami did. It was like, I mean, they had to give up capital.
Did they trade for Tyreek? Yeah, they did.
Yeah, and then they went out and they traded for their edge rusher, whose name I'm forgetting right now too.
And Mostert, and then they just traded for the
other running back.
Right?
Yeah. And so like that's and look, I think look, Miami fans, I listen to Le Batard's show pretty religiously, and they do their local hour where they spend a lot of time talking about the Dolphins.
Okay.
And I, there's just a different sense of excitement listening to them talk about that team this year compared to years previous, when there wasn't necessarily like the errors that were being made were of omission and of just straight up ineptitude. But it didn't feel all the time to those guys as if the Dolphins were 100% in. And I think here this year, it hasn't felt with the only kind of constant negative aspect of this season, other than my Twitter feed, has been the fact that I don't feel like the Lakers are 100%, or the Lakers front office is 100% committed to this season and to this core. And that's, like they're asking for LeBron and AD to prove that they can still do this thing. And, fans are still asking for this front office to prove, are you capable of doing what you have to do right by these guys? And I think both of those things are fair to hope for.
Yes, they are fair to hope for, certainly.
Yeah.
But it is also fair for a front office to say what is available isn't good enough to get us where we want to go, and we don't want to materially damage the next thing.
Yeah.
But I am coming closer to your side, and it's not that I'm not on your side of it. It is just nothing that I have seen has gotten me to the level that I want to give up 2 picks in the same deal. Yeah. I do, though, and again, I said this earlier.
So if that's the difference, then it sounds to me like you're willing to move the 2 picks, but not in the same deal. You want to stretch out those 2 picks.
I'm willing to move. I am willing to move the 2 picks in the same deal. Nothing that I have seen yet gets me to that level in any single deal. But if there was a single deal that I thought was worth it, then yes, I would be willing to move 2 picks. But I think the best path forward presently is what I just said. I've been advocating for internally, and you laid it out, is separate those picks, and then you get to, and theoretically, Pat Bev, none would get traded first. In what would seem like a smaller deal, you see what you can do with that, and then you get to, and plus because Russ is a winning component for the basketball team presently, you get to say, you get to play chicken with all these other teams. Plus, you get to play chicken later in the season when there is a deadline, and I say it all the time here, is deadlines create activity.
Yeah.
So when you start getting to the trade deadline, if not before, you really get to say, all right, well, this is literally what is left to trade. If that's not good enough, so be it. But you don't have the option of both picks anymore.
Yep. All right. I think that's going to do it here for this episode of The Hook and this week's episodes here on the Silver Screen and Roll Podcast Network. Thank y'all a ton for tuning in live. Those of you who have, thank you guys a ton for tuning in live to last night's show when we did the roundtable and to this point. We got some really cool graphics and information here from Spotify on the way that listenership has continued to grow despite the Lakers just kind of toiling in mediocrity for most of the season, or worse than that. So you guys are the best. You guys are the best. And you know what? From now on, consider yourself the best Lakers fans. Because if you're listening to something like this on a Friday afternoon, you're a better Laker fan than everybody else who isn't. How about that? Congratulations. Until next week, I'm Anthony Irwin. That's Aaron Larsoul. This has been The Hook.